Minister Thulas Nxesi has confirmed a little bit earlier on that there is support, calls for support from Nedlac to mandatory COVID-19 vaccination, of course, with conditions in place. This comes just over a week after President Cyril Ramaphosa announced that a task team will look into the legalities of implementing the strategy. Nedlac held its 26th annual summit today in Johannesburg under the theme Recovering and Building Together. Nedlac Executive Director Lisa Seftel joins me now to talk about the outcomes of that summit. Lisa, good evening, and thank you very much for your time joining us tonight here on In Focus. We're going to get to the recovery conversation in a moment, but let's start with that response from the Labour Minister earlier on today, saying that Nedlac is in support, particularly of mandatory vaccine. What are the conditions that Nedlac has put to the Minister for your support?
Well, let me just say that it's not really Nedlac as an institution, but the constituencies that make up Nedlac, organised business, organised labour, community and government, that believe that we need to move the dial in respect of vaccinations, and that the measures to do that should include strengthening the occupational health and safety direction to ensure that employers can explore the mandatory vaccination. And if you do need vaccinations for a safe workplace, then employers can require employees to vaccinate. And secondly, that there can be restrictions or limits placed on certain venues and gatherings and events that they only allow vaccinated people to attend.
Are the social partners convinced that they've explored all levels of intervention here? For example, providing information, enabling choice, guiding choice by incentives, guiding choice by disincentives. They've explored all this because ultimately many are saying the vaccine mandates need to be the last step, having explored all other interventions.
I think that is a very important question. And as you may be aware, the social partners have really been actively involved in this vaccination program since the beginning of the year. Business, for example, was very active in partnering with government to make sure that vaccines are available in so many parts of the country and free. And then both business as well as community and labour have been involved in mobilizing, in going down to shop stewards, into communities, to workplaces, and encourage people to vaccinate. Unfortunately, as we all know, our vaccination numbers are low. There have also been attempts at incentives, such as the incentive that I think to get 100 Rand from checkers and so on. And particularly when the travel bans were introduced last week or the week before after the Omicron variant became public, the social partners felt that one needed to do more. And that's when this discussion on vaccine mandates as well as on restricting access to vaccinated people became more pronounced, although it has been under discussion. And obviously the pros and cons of doing this have been canvassed.
Yeah. Are there other less restrictive options coming up? Maybe not so dominant, but are they coming up from other partners?
Well, the social partners have looked quite a lot and have been given presentations on the comparative experience. And for example, if you look at France, if you look at the vaccination rate when they introduced restrictions went up, I think, 365%. And so they have been convinced by the comparative experience that restricting access and vaccine mandates will work to drive up the numbers. Yeah. And if we're able to drive up vaccination numbers, then, you know, as some people say, we can save our summer, tourists can come back, and there can be also not so many deaths and ill health as a result of the COVID pandemic.
And would you say that is the evidence that they relied on to back this push for vaccine mandates? And are they confident of the quality of that data that they are looking at?
I do think they're convinced about the quality. Not only is there the international experience, but recently Discovery indicated their own experience in South Africa, and I think they've got vaccination numbers up to 94%.
Right. Now, let's talk about whether or not the conversation came about amongst the partners on whether or not vaccine mandates would be able to pass constitutional muster and if they would be challenged.
Well, there has been some anxiety about that, and some of the social partners have taken legal advice, and the legal advice that they've been given is that it would pass constitutional muster. However, BUSA, Business Unity South Africa, has decided that they will, in the new year, go to the Constitutional Court and ask for a declarator, ask for clarity on whether workplace vaccination mandates would be constitutional. But it hasn't stopped a number of South African corporations from proceeding with this route and doing the necessary consultations with their workforces.
Yeah. Now, of course, in anticipation of this summit, one of the issues that was quite prominent was, of course, the question of these GDP numbers and what could possibly be coming out of those numbers following the unrest that we saw in July. What's the conversation around the social partners on the work that Nedlac now needs to do in light of the Q3 contraction? Firstly, was this something that was expected, and is there a recovery plan to that?
Well, the summit was held today at the same time as the numbers came out, so I can't really comment on what the social partners would say about the numbers. But I think there is a consensus, again, amongst the social partners that the economy is not good, and that there's a crisis around jobs, particularly youth unemployment. And that is why over the last year, or in fact the last couple of years, the social partners have really been collaborating on ways to create jobs and to recover the economy. And particularly also after the July public violence, also collaborated to try and build stability and provide some forms of relief. So today there was a review of the efforts of the social partners on economic recovery and supporting the government's plan. And I think there is a view that there has been movement. Unfortunately, sometimes more movement that would have an impact in the long term rather than some of the short-term measures that would build business confidence. Yes, I don't think this is a standing still issue. There are initiatives.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about those initiatives. One of them being the strategic approach to localization. What's the work that Nedlac believes needs to be done to stimulate domestic production?
So the localization initiative is led by Minister Patel and the Department of Trade and Industry. And what they have been doing, working with business, is to identify champions in as many as 42 sectors or subsectors who would then look hard at how in a particular area they could enable localization. And some of the work and what is needed to be done is incorporated in master plans. There is a master plan, for example, on poultry, on sugar, on footwear, and so on. And in these master plans, steps are put about what each of the social partners should be doing and how they should be supporting each other so that we can have more local production.
Yeah. And how are they holding each other accountable then on that? Remember the last conversation you and I had, we were talking about the fact that Nedlac is tired of having this talk shop, but they actually want commitment from the partners to go and implement, and there will be measurables in order to hold each other accountable on these issues.
No, that is true. I think it has been very important. Some of the important work that Nedlac has done has been to track what social partners have committed to do. And some reports were given in this meeting, and there is an important commitment to hold everybody accountable for their commitments.
Yeah. What's Nedlac's response to youth unemployment, and what are the interventions there that could possibly be implemented to deal with that situation that is running away with us, getting worse according to the last numbers that came out?
That's true. And again, we had a speaker today, and a former SRC president from WITS, who highlighted some of the critical problems that face young people. There is quite a bit of work being done in Nedlac at the moment in relationship to revising the skills strategy and also looking at critical skills. And the Nedlac social partners are also supportive of the presidential employment stimulus it is one of the commitments in the Economic Recovery and Reconstruction Program.
Yeah. The, of course, topic we'll be dealing with in just a moment around the amendment to Section 25, which did not pass because of lack of support. They didn't get the two-thirds majority. However, there has been conversation at Nedlac around the reformulation of land and property rights to release the enablement for economic opportunities. What is the suggestion there in light of the current developments?
So over the last year, there has been a number of policies from the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, as well as the expropriation bill, that has come to Nedlac. And I think the social partners have attempted to enrich these pieces of legislation. On these legislation, to be honest, organized business and labor and community don't always agree. But they have tried to, particularly in the areas of making land for agriculture more available, there has been a discussion and consensus.
Right. Energy transmission, Nedlac convinced that a state-led transmission is the way to go. How do you stimulate competition then within that space?
I wouldn't say that there's a position from all the social partners on the issue of transmission. The issue of, how can I put it, increasing the capacity of our country to transmit energy, particularly renewable energy, say, for example, from the Northern Cape and so on to other parts of the economy, is a concern that has been raised by the social partners, but we haven't discussed it in any significant detail.
Lisa, I appreciate your time and thank you very much for coming through this evening. That's Lisa Seftel, their director at Nedlac. Of course, finishing off some of their deliberations today, holding their summit and on recovery and what needs to be done, particularly in returning our economy to its glory days. Well,